Welcome, fellow anglers, to the Working Class Fishing Podcast, a place for all anglers, amateur or expert, to share their stories and learn about fishing. Join your hosts, John and Brian, each episode as they debunk the perceived inaccessibility to fishing, break down the barriers of any and all angling methods, and hear stories from other anglers and their own journeys with fishing. Now, let's get this show started.
Welcome back to another episode of the Working Class Fishing Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Brian, and here is John Morris with our sponsors.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Working Class Fishing. This episode of Working Class Fishing is brought to you by CD Fishing USA, Anadromous Fly Company, Angry Rooster Fly Company, Mr. Shearcure and Naughty Tackle, Lid Rig, and 317 Flies. Go check them out.
Definitely go check out those sponsors. They got some fantastic stuff, and let them know that we sent you. That's the most important thing. Now, tonight, we have our very special guest from the land down under. He has his own fly company. He sells fly tying materials. He also has a podcast as well. You may have heard of him from the Intermediate Line podcast, and also you might know him from Beast Brushes. We have Chris Adams on tonight from Queensland, Australia. So, Chris, thank you so much for taking the time to be here on our podcast. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, gentlemen. I'm stoked to be here. This is a real honor. You guys put out a great show, and as a fellow podcaster, I'm pumped to be a part of it. But you guys don't mind if I sort of abbreviate things down and just call you guys Bron for short instead of Brian and John, right?
Sounds good.
That'll work for you guys.
Yeah,
we like to keep things simple in Australia down here.
Oh, that's fine with me. Doing the name combination thing, all that stuff, that's all a part of the game, right? You know, you got to keep. I thought
Gian was probably a bit too exotic. You know, Bron's probably better.
Yeah, probably. It's very masculine.
Yeah,
I
agree. You did well with the pronunciation of Queensland too.
Right? Did I? I was
Nailed
hoping
it.
so.
Now, Kingsland is called now after the Queen died, I believe.
Oh. Are you guys still under control of the monarchy?
Yeah, I guess officially, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's see if old King Chuck comes down there to visit you again.
I think we need an island down here, I think, from what I hear, for the royals to show up anywhere, right?
Yeah.
That's a poor Epstein joke, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's private island. Yeah. No. Yeah. You can infuse U.S. politics into British monarchy, and however you want to.
I'll do my best, but I can't. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. That could be pretty bad, but we'll give it a crack.
That's all right. Well, hey, Chris. Go ahead.
Right.
All right.
No,
well, Chris, we always ask a couple of questions, and then it just kind of goes off into outer space and stuff. But correct me if I'm wrong. It is your summer right now, right?
You are correct there, Brian. It is hot as balls here right now.
Okay. Are you guys out fishing right now?
Yeah. I knew every time we speak to guests from the US on our show, I really struggle with the conversion. But I believe it's probably sitting around 90 degrees Fahrenheit commonly now. Sometimes goes over 100, may very rarely go under 90. I'm guessing it's for those who are listening to the metric, I suppose we're sort of sitting around 32, 35 sort of degrees, and just humid as. Enough to make you say crikey.
Yeah, it's pretty warm. Crikey.
Right.
We don't say crikey or drink Fosters here. Just give you the drum.
God. Yeah, next thing you know, it's going to be that's not a knife.
We're waiting for it. You Paul Hogan, you'll just hold it up there. Here, hold on a second here. There, right?
The best I can do. Sorry, just some needle nose pliers. We're taking the teeth out of crocodiles now. It's just much more, safer these days. Much more woke.
Oh, so you don't have to jump on them in the river and stab them through the head with a 18-inch.
Nah.
We call it a Bowie knife here, you know.
Yeah, that's
In
old
America.
school and inconsiderate, you know.
Yeah. Poor crocodile when it comes up to rip you into the river and
Yeah,
do the death roll.
Don't
Yeah.
even have the courtesy of a reach around. You just jump on them.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So what are
Chris?
you guys
Oh, shit.
fishing for right now?
There's some seasonal fish, I guess, but you know, I live near. My developmental years with fly fishing always been around salt water, so I fished a lot of flats and things like that as well. We got a really good blue water section around us, which I know blows a lot of people away who aren't aware of it. But we've got, you know, great sized tuna, trailer boat distance offshore. You know, you can get out there in a 13-foot boat quite easily and be fishing for massive schools of tuna. They're starting to show up now. You know, I've been on my social media recently. I've been hitting a fish called Saratoga, which is like a freshwater native, quite a similar to sort of an arapaima, I guess, or an arowana, I suppose, but endemic to Australia. Those fish and another fish, barramundi, I guess, a pretty iconic Australian fish as well. You know, you could probably liken some of those to some of the species you guys have got, and pretty up with what you guys fish for as well. You know, just through observing the techniques for fly fishing and stuff like that. So, I mean, we can make comparisons if you like, but that's what I'm basically fishing for at the moment. It just changes throughout the year, I suppose. Spring's leading up to flats time, flats fishing in salt water, really. This time of year in summer, freshwater natives, that's when they start to really cook, get real dumb.
So do you guys have like a lot of resident or let me start that over. So tarpon, do you guys have resident tarpon where you are?
Yeah,
or
we got tarpon, but not like you guys. We got an Indo-Pacific tarpon, and it might get to, again, I'm gonna fuck out with the metrics here, with the conversion, I should say, but a big one, a huge one would be about 80 centimeters, 70 to 80 centimeters. I really don't know what that'd be. I really should have a converter open for this conversation.
that's like 60 inches, I think.
No, well, I think a meter's 45 inches. Let me do it. Hang on.
Yeah.
It's probably worth the time to get this organized, given the conversations we're going to be talking about, I suppose.
Yeah.
Well, there's 2.54 centimeters per inch. So, if you were to do the conversion on that,
29 inches. It is. That's about as big as. That's a huge one. They might get a little bit bigger than that, but commonly they're probably more often 15 inches. You know, so they're 4-weight, 3-weight sort of fish for us, just micro tarpon.
that
And
sounds
they're
like
not-
a lot of fun.
Yeah, they're heaps of fun. Can't take anything away from them. They go pretty hard, but they're just, if you fish them appropriately with light rods, they're fun as. You find them in pretty similar situations as well. Like you'll find them in locked lagoons on golf courses and stuff like that, but also offshore on wrecks and stuff. But they're too small to be seen cruising up the flat like some of the Atlantic ones that look like a fucking dolphin, you know?
Big old slab of a herring.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
So do you guys actually fly fish for the tuna? Like go out offshore and then and fly fish for the tuna?
Oh yeah. Yep. A massive part of my developmental years was tuna fishing on fly. I've never even caught one on conventional gear. It's always been on fly. There's tournaments and stuff like that you compete in, and it's all, yeah, it's a very big part. It teaches you a lot. You know, I would liken tuna fishing for where I live to be if you jumped on a trampoline, you know, up and down, you got someone to spray you in the face with a hose while you're trying to cast 90 to 100 feet. That'd be tuna fishing on a boat.
Yeah. What species tuna are you? Yellowfin, bluefin, albacore?
Yeah, we get yellowfin here. We got a species, the more desirable and the more the more desirably common species, I should say, is called longtail tuna. I used to think that they were similar to black tuna, what you guys get over there, but I've been told they're not. They're very similar to look at. They probably get to around, a good one would be maybe 40, 45 pound, I guess. That's not that unheard of, you know, but it's 10-weight material. But we also get what you guys call false albacore, which we call Mac tuna, and they're kind of vermin for us. We don't. I mean, we'll catch them. I know how stupidly elitist this sounds to people who love our albies. You know, I get that. They are a great species. They pull really hard, but they're just not as challenging as, say, longtail tuna. Longtail tuna we'll find on the flats in like waist deep water, like in pods of 1 or 2, and they're smart fish to cast at. Or they'll be in the deep water and they'll be just a single fish cruising. You can still sight fish and pick them off. Whereas false albacore, or Mac tuna as we call them, they'll be more of a schooling fish and be more of a mosh pit, I guess. They can be challenging as far as, you know, the detail for the fly you choose, even the size of your knot or in the leader. They can be pretty spooky and they can be fucking frustrating. You can burn a lot of fuel chasing them, but they're not longtail. They're not found in those situations. You know, it's in my opinion, finding a longtail tuna in about waist deep, chest deep water and feeding that thing like an 8-inch flatwing is just fucking great. I love it.
That sounds like fun, man.
Yeah,
because I've only fished for tuna conventionally. That's it. So
yeah,
I haven't fished for tuna on the fly ever. But we have to go 60 to 80 miles offshore to get to where our tuna grounds are. So a lot further, a lot longer run out, and the ocean's a lot rougher up here.
We can catch them off the beach. Like, I mean, I've never done. I'd much prefer to be in a boat because if you're on the beach, it's just harder to chase them. But you know, like that. There's a movie, I can't remember who put it out. They're running down the man, the roosterfish vid. Have you guys seen that?
No.
Oh, check it out. If you guys haven't seen it or your listeners haven't seen it, I'd highly advise. It's old school. It's not a very long vid. I can't remember who put the fucking thing out, but it's in Baja, and there's dudes just running down the beach just chasing roosterfish, and it's cool as hell. But you could do that with tuna as well. But no, I don't. I chase them from a boat, but same sort of depth water. To give you an idea.
Man.
So do you, are roosterfish, is that like a fish that, well shit, dude. Oh, hold on. We're talking a lot about fish. I know it's a fishing podcast, but Chris,
Still good?
how did you get into fishing?
Oh man, probably like a lot of people, you know, like family. My mother's side is a family of commercial fishermen. It sort of stopped with me and my brother, but so like I was always taken fishing from a really young age from my grandfather and his uncle, his brother, my grand uncle, I guess you could say, and their family. You know, that evolved into just, you know, walking creeks for our bass and things like that, and eventually just fishing artificials by maybe, I don't know, 10 years old, 10 years old, started to fish lures, some bait. Then, yeah, that probably kept going until I was probably in my late teens, and then fly fishing ever since, and I'm nearly 50 now.
So what, God damn it, what was that draw to fly fishing?
That's a good question. We've got a species over here called brim, and people love to hack on brim fishermen, and they love to hack on trout fishermen because it's a small species. We consider a rat with fins. They just live everywhere in all urban environments. They're a saltwater fish, but they're smart. You know, they'll get to maybe a pound in 30 years. You know, they've seen a lot of shit. By targeting with artificials, the most effective way is to just go lighter and lighter, and the more finesse you could get. And it was just that path, I guess, that took me to that. From there, you know, like that's when I got introduced to tuna. I had no interest in catching tuna before I picked up a fly rod, because I started to learn that the effectiveness of catching tuna on fly is in, you know, them focused on little tiny shit like this that you just couldn't cast on a conventional rod.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, it was the finesse, I suppose, of it. Now, you know, which is not. I still get involved with the finesse side of fishing with saltwater. Definitely not so much. I'd much rather see a big fly hanging out of a fish if I can than a small one. These days. Yeah.
Dude, so you've got a lot of fly patterns that you developed and curated, right? So
yeah,
the one I'm the most familiar with is your slow water game changer, dude.
Yeah.
And I've got to say, we had Ryan McFall on, and
yep.
He does such a beautiful job of tying your pattern. And
Yeah.
I've got to say to you that fly is fucking sick.
Yeah. No, it's impressive. There's so much history behind that fly though, like leading up to what you see now, different versions. What do you want to know about it?
Well, fucking anything you want to share about it, dude.
Yeah, well, I've got yeah, look, it's interesting, man. So I got into Game Changers out of necessity, I suppose. And I was aware of Game Changers, I suppose, back when Flyman did a promo video back in like something like 2007, 2006. My understanding was that the pattern's been around since the 60s, called a linked minnow, I believe. And I know that Blaine's popularized it and started popularizing it maybe around 2000s. But for me, it went by the wayside. It wasn't sort of something you saw often in Australia. And I got into it in maybe about 2014, just through a species of fish called a jewfish that I was finding very hard to catch on fly. They're notoriously hard fish to catch. We call them ghosts of the estuaries here. They're a big fish, but they're just hard to pin. They're similar to redfish, I suppose, but very different characteristics of where they live. Anyway, I needed a very realistic fly, a very bait fishy type of fly, and I started to get into those things. And from there, I sort of rekindled my interest in seeing what Blaine was doing. But this is where I guess the story relates to the slow water, is that my requirements of that fly, or my desire of that fly, was always more about timber swim baits, like conventional swim baits. I really wanted to model off that. And I noticed that, it wasn't really getting that direction from anyone else anywhere, I suppose. So after a pile of what I like to call the shit sandwiches of like hours and hours of tying flies and stuff like that, eventually I got it. And maybe about 2015, got that nice swim bait action, but I found it hard to replicate. I didn't know how it happened. So I'm a tradesman, like most of my life, and learning about things called hydrodynamics and specific gravities of materials and buoyancies and shit was just bashed into me by trying to achieve that action, and just from after making mistake after mistake after mistake. There's probably a lot in between there, but fast forward to what you see now with the foam tabs in there, the action is paramount. The action is what I'm trying to achieve, and the only way I could achieve that action of that tail wagging side to side was through a trimmed Game Changer. I couldn't have that conical shape, if you want, like even all the way around. Like that's what I first started to work on, was drag. So the drag and the materials. If I could trim the Game Changer, I could, without the foam tabs before the slow water came around, if I could trim the Game Changer, I could control where the fly would create drag in the water, and therefore that would, show itself through the action, I guess. I guess the principle is of the fly takes the path of least resistance through the water is what I was sort of capitalizing on there a lot, I should say. From there, I started to work with materials that offered buoyancy in themselves, but when you put them on the terminals or in the wire, when you're making brushes and stuff, they would still sink, but they would just sink slower. So if you imagine imagine a Game Changer was tied out of nothing but steel, right? Beautiful articulations. You could hold it up to the camera and wiggle it from side to side and almost touch itself end to end. But if you chuck that thing in the water, you would have to rip that thing so fast before it started to get action. That I realized that buoyancy would create the action I wanted at a much slower speeds. And that's sort of the direction I started to go. And then obviously we were starting already keeling the flies with putting weights on the bend of the hook. So essentially I got that buoyancy and that keeling of every single shank through there by adding the foam tabs to it, which I started off doing concealing under the brush, but eventually that didn't enable me to tune it. By putting the tabs in, I could increase or decrease the length, and I could make a fly either like sink head first, float, or suspend as we can't really make a fly suspend because it doesn't have a bib. But yeah, I could tune it essentially. So I can fish a slow water Game Changer on a fast sink line. I can make that thing sink level at 6 inches per second, like a type 6 line, or I can make it float on the water like a wake bait. But essentially, I've just created a little swim bait. Essentially, yeah. I mean, the swim bait thing has been done for years. I've just made it into a fly, I suppose. And yeah, Ryan does it really well. Ryan's been I I guess you could say, a student of that for a long time. Like, he's reached out to me a lot. He's bought my video off Beast Brushes. Shameless plug there, but in that video, I go through everything, like the hydrodynamics of it, like talking about the material selection, why, the drag, all that sort of stuff, and then so you can learn how it's made, so you can adapt these things at different lengths and fishing different parts of the water column. I could keep nerding out on it if you like, but yeah, that's essentially
But no,
it.
dude, that's badass. I think some of the greatest, some of the most, I don't know, some of the most appreciated ingenuity by myself is when it's out of necessity. You know, you wanted to catch those dew fish, and is it dew or is it like dew?
Dew is in like jewel. They got their oleus, like the ear bones. They're quite pearlescent, and they call them jewels. So they could just call it a dew fish, I guess you could say, as short instead of jewel fish. Jewel fish has been taken. It's a deep sea fish, but also called a mulloway, depending on what part of Australia you are from. I would be careful enunciating that. Really, in Australia, we just get Australia. So I'll take more time to pronounce Australia from now on.
No. Go ahead. We have to keep this multicultural and authentic.
I believe that's also called woke as fuck, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Now,
Cool.
within the constraints of multiculturalism, wokeism is a totally different subject. We won't dive into that. This is a fishing podcast, but multiculturalism, we celebrate all cultures, all different walks of life. And if you talk the way you talk, that you talk that way, and nobody should hold that against you. So if we have Americans that are listening to this, they're like, he didn't say that, right? It's supposed to be Australia. Well, this is a part of dialects in the English language, so deal with it.
Well, I can give you a lesson. If you think of it spelled Straylia, Australia, that's how we say it over here. No one pronounces the A-U. It's just Australia. If you're ever hanging out in Australia and you want to talk about Australia, just call it Australia.
Yeah.
So so what crime did your grandfather? I'm just kidding.
I think it was a loaf of bread, dude. I'm pretty sure.
On the mean streets of London.
Yeah. Whatever he did, he got the fuck out of Dodge there, man. And that's I'd much rather be in Australia than England right now, man. I'd much rather have tuna on the flats than muddy Thames or something,
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, not that I'm knocking England, great country, but fishing isn't as good as Australia.
Exactly. So now, are you just fishing predominantly in Queensland, or do you go down to like Tasmania or let's see, I don't know all of the states, but do you fish up and down the East Coast there, basically New South Wales, all that?
Yeah, I have. I don't really have much desire to go south, which is colder, being on the flip side down here. Mm-hmm. Like I said earlier, like my developmental years in fly fishing and fishing is tropical salt water. So my goals, I guess, stem from my upbringing. I suppose I always want to just do better within that sort of side of things. I can't really appeal to trout. Really, that's where the trout are, a bit further south in the colder climates. I mean, I'm in the natives. I'm not into introduced species, really. I mean, they're cool, they're fun, I guess. I like carp as well, which introduced as well. But for me, my heart's in it with the natives. And in that circumstance, I would offer that caveat in what you said there, in that I will go south to fish for Murray cod. Not as often as I'd like to. Very cool fish, but look, if you tethered a rope around a Murray cod and the tail of a barramundi equal size, man, that barramundi's got that cod up on the plane every day of the week. It's and look, there's going to be people that are going to dispute that, but I would wager that you won't see them holding a picture of a barramundi.
Well, and that's the interesting part is saltwater fish are a totally different animal. It doesn't matter where you go in the world. They're meaner, they're faster, they're definitely highly predatory. And I think it's the ocean is a dog eat dog ecosystem. There's nothing more.
For sure.
For sure. That's what it is.
Yeah. I should add, in case you're saying that for this reason, that the barramundi are freshwater fish as well. Like they'll happily live their whole life in freshwater. Same with the Murray cod, I guess you could say. Freshwater, barramundi, Australian bass, those two species have got to find salt water to breed. They've got to find a certain parts per million of salt to breed, essentially. So, like barramundi will live in both.
So they're an anadromous species then, which means that, well, they don't go out to salt grow and then return to freshwater to spawn. They'll go into freshwater and then go out to saltwater to spawn.
Yeah, so they're all born male, and then they turn female at a certain size, and then and that's when they'll go out to saltwater. There's plenty of lakes in Australia that stock barramundi in them. Those fish haven't got the ability to go out to saltwater, so they've got a desire to go over the wall. Every time it floods, they'll go every chance they get. But in most circumstances, they'll be afforded the opportunity to grow to. Well, I'm gonna have to get my Googleator out to do the conversion again. If you just stay with me,
Just stick with metric.
I'll do it, man. A meter's 39 inches, so commonly, around that. But trophy size, 53 inches. 53-inch fish, it would be an 80-pound fish, easy, I reckon.
Wow, that's a
That's
big,
a big fish. Yeah, dude.
Yeah, they're big, man. They're strong, they're big, they're fast, and look, I mean, if you want to eat them, they taste good from the salt. When they're in the fresh, they taste like a handful of mud and weed. So they're more of a catch and release species in the lakes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah,
you can do all sorts of shit like soak them in vinegar and milk and do all that stupid stuff, but I'd rather go buy a steak, to be honest with you.
Yeah. By the time you're done buying all the vinegar and the milk that you need to soak, people do that with ducks. They duck hunt. It tastes too gamey, so they soak it in vinegar and milk to try to get the gamey taste out. I just rather smoke the thing. I mean, that's my thought on it. But to each their own. Everybody's got their own palate, I guess. But that's really interesting. I mean, that's like Jurassic Park shit. Life finds its way.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think and we've got a lot of lakes in Australia. Nearly said Australia then. We've got a lot of lakes here, and the people who manage the fisheries and game say like you guys got like your wildlife officers and stuff like that. The fisheries here, they'll stock these lakes because they've been interrupted the natural flow of the migration of these anadromous species. So with that big giant concrete wall in the way, they don't get to the areas where they would normally breed. So they stock them. The flow of them going over is a natural part of, it's part of the intention anyway, but it's a natural part of the flow anyway. But you do get a lot of fishermen that suck and go, my fish have gone over the wall. But it's just part of the deal, really.
That's a huge fish, dude.
Mm.
And you said it tastes like shit in freshwater. So is that like, do you think that helps out in the catch and release aspect of that fish?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah. In the salt, they're netted voraciously. Like commercial netters take tons and tons of them, which is just fucking criminal in itself, really. But they're very desirable. They fetch a lot of money per kilo or per pound, if you want, at the fish shops.
Damn.
It's real sad.
It is. That's a fucking shame.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go ahead.
I was going to say, like, many of your listeners who listen to do saltwater probably aren't aware that. I don't want to get political or dark on it and stuff like that, but I mean the stupidness of the netting. Like we get tons of permit. Like in my local area, which is a World Heritage listed area, the pros since April last year have taken something like 9 metric ton of permit. It's crazy. It really is. It's the fisheries management you guys have got in the US is enviable for us over here. That's for sure. The things like the Bonefish Tarpon Trust, what those guys do for stuff and work in the Keys, water clarity and education and sustainability is enviable, like I said. But yeah, the commercial netting over here is pretty nuts, really.
Holy shit, man.
Mm.
Well, first off, completely unaware that was a thing. That is boggled. I'm fucking flabbergasted, I guess. Like
Yeah,
that's fucking insane, dude.
yeah, these areas, like, they're so unbelievable for fishing. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen the media. We got really close to where I live, like only an hour from where I live. I could go catch marlin in waist deep water. Black marlin will get up, and you'll catch free swimming marlin on fly up in there. And these areas get absolutely pounded by commercial netters. It's crazy. The shark population's out of hand, and that's going around the world. You hear it everywhere. But yeah, it's a dark path, that one. But yeah, I guess it's just to give people aware it's not shooting fish in a barrel over here either, like most places, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a section of the Great Barrier Reef, right? That's what your kind of your fishing zone.
No, those marlin are much further south than where the Great Barrier Reef ends.
Okay.
Marlin will go into some pretty cold water. We're sort of part of their migration here. We're still warm water, well and truly. But they'll go much further south. But just that section there, it's a place called Fraser Island. The town's called Harvey Bay. It's a bit of a freak scenario, really. There are other places in Australia that aren't as populated that happens. I've no doubt in my mind, but this particular place just gets arse bundles of juvenile black marlin up in the flats up there that are just brave as anything. They just don't care. They're just so brave. It's a fun fishery, that's for sure.
Man, sounds like fun. I couldn't imagine just being out there waist deep and throwing flies at marlin. Like, there again, that's another species that what I'm used to is that you have to go the distance offshore and start looking for bait fish schools. And then like, that's where you're going to find them. And then it's like gear ripping out everywhere and you're running it. Like, I don't even know what a troll speed is for marlin. I'm sure it's the same speed or faster than tuna, but
Probably
that's just
probably they're probably a bit slower than tuna, really. But tuna, mackerel and stuff like that, they're much faster. They're like around 6 knots. So you're trolling skirts and stuff. You still switch bait them where that happens. Depends on how patient you are to sort of stake out the flats for a free swimmer, but you wouldn't have to wait long. But yeah, switch baiting and trolling teasers and stuff is sort of, I don't know, around 4 or 5 knots, I suppose you could say.
wow. That's a pretty fast troll speed, but still so cool. I mean, the fisheries that you guys have are just incredible. Like, for you, that's just what you have. But for us, it's like this really unique ecosystem of a lot of different species of fish. And, given the fact that your country has a significantly lower population, and I know that there's probably still quite a few anglers out there. Have you guys seen a sharp increase in angling, or is it kind of a steady rise, or is it going down?
No, you're right, man. It's definitely an incline. I think social media has really seen an influx of fishing. A lot of people don't have to hunt now; they can be shown. The ability to be at location X and use bait Y is pretty easy to do. These days, a lot of people like to share it for whatever reason, whatever motivation they got. I think. I've been talking about this with some friends of mine, that I've grown up with. The ability to read water, it's not lost. I'll put it that way. But I mean, I'll preface what I'm about to say by saying that I can appreciate the skills that have come out in the newer generation, if you like, in that their ability to pick apart social media as the path of least resistance for their information sourcing, as opposed to spending weeks on the water. I mean, like, September only comes around once a year. So what you learn in September is going to be different to what you learn in May, and you've got a full 12 months to learn it again. But with social media, you got all these people fish in September, and you can learn from hundreds of people for what their experiences. And you simply have to ask them, and they'll tell you a lot of the time what they've done and what they've failed at, what they've succeeded at. And for that reason, I think it's got a lot more people out in the water. Some of the species that have been quite challenging. Like, you take permit, for example. Now, permit used to be one of those fish that were people didn't consider them to eat. They thought they ate through osmosis. Now the chances are that if you see a permit, you'll catch it. Through fly development, shared fly development, shared knowledge of where to look for them, tides, things like that. Some of these fish that are just being completely demystified. And I think that's enabling people to get out in the water. And you're right, there's a massive spike in a lot of people. I don't fish weekends anymore. Let's put it that way. I fucking hate people in that respect. I hate seeing people out in the water. I really would rather just experience it without seeing anyone there. So, we evolve like that, I suppose, as far as what you put up on social media. A lot of my photos are photoshopped to hide backgrounds, sadly. You put the yards in, you find something unique, but people are so good at picking things apart on social media that you kind of got to, it's the only way you can protect the place, really, or not post at all. But, I have a full-time job that, really heavily relies on social media. So I kind of got to show results to sell.
So, Chris, what is that shop, dude?
That shop, I'm glad you asked there, John. That shop is Beast Brushes, found at beastbrushes.com. And we ship worldwide everywhere. Beg your pardon?
I said, for all your fly tying needs, beastbrushes.com.
I might get you to lay that down on a track for me, man, and we might play it on our show.
Oh, yeah, dude. Yeah, I need to go smoke like half a pack of Camel menthols though, and get the real deep voice like I'm trying to sell you a Ford truck.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Try to do the Sam Elliott.
Yeah, the Bill McNeil.
Yeah. So when did you start Beast Brushes? When did that all start?
Getting back to the Game Changer evolution, I suppose, in that respect, I came across a friend of mine who I didn't know real well. And that dude, his name's Marty, and he just liked to make brushes, man. That was his thing. He wasn't on social media. He was just into making brushes and the technical aspect of it. And so I was still called Ammo Flies then. I was still full-time commercial fly tying while he was making brushes. And we were testing them and getting them right just for Game Changers. That's all we were doing, just nothing but building them for Game Changers. And eventually it became a bit more of a juggernaut than Marty expected, or even I expected, really. And he's a carpenter by trade, still is, and he had to make a decision essentially to pick a safe trade or take a punt on brushes. And I was already balls deep in commercially fly tying, so I took it over, and then I make all the brushes now. So I make everything here. I process all the bucktail, make all the brushes. God, man, that pretty much takes up a lot of my day, processing bucktail and making brushes. Really, I don't have time to tie flies anymore. That's for sure.
Man, that's so. It's cool though, because you're a professional in the industry now. You went from angler to fly tyer to now running a materials company and as a professional. That's super cool. It's like you have a very good background and solid foundation.
Yeah, it's sort of been look, man, I'm not good at the politics of this fucking industry. I'm really not. And so I like to try and offer shit that's real. I don't offer everything in the shop. It's not a shop that caters for everything. I just sort of stick to my lane and the things that I know intimately and know well. Given the opportunity to explain, without sound like an ad, I apologize if it does, but given the opportunity to explain why I grade my bucktail like I do, or the brushes, the range of brushes is there, why is, or why it's an advantage over someone else. I could explain it all day long, but also I can show it catching fish, because at the end of the day, that's just been my mantra and my angle with my every business of mine is just, I don't tie trout flies. I don't tie Atlantic tarpon flies. I don't tie anything outside of my lane, anything I don't know well. I'm into the fishing. I'm into the fishing primarily, and everything flow charts down from there.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah. So yeah.
I was just gonna say, so I mean, that's really fucking awesome. But so I'm not gonna lie, you were talking about toga earlier.
Yep.
Right. And the first time I heard you on your podcast, which is the Intermediate Line, everybody, go check them out. And first time I heard you say it, I was like, what the fuck is he talking about? And then you, sure shit, the next day you posted a picture of it. I was like, dude, those fish look gnarly. I want to catch one.
Yeah. They're cool as hell, man. I love that fish. Yeah, it's yeah. So toga, abbreviation for Saratoga, which I believe is a Native American word, meaning gentle stream and good hunting or something like that. I'm pretty sure it is. Can't, people Google it if they want to. But anyway, yeah, it's a real prehistoric fish, that's for sure, that one. And it's just awesome for fly fishing, that thing. Those things, they jump, they carry, they look like a little mini tarpon as far as what they do, the way they eat, the way they stick their nose up underneath the fly. They eat tarpon flies like toads and bunnies and things like that as well. But yeah, they eat, they jump. They're not, I fish them for them with 6 weights, and I might get to, excuse me, I'll just get my converter out. My biggest I've caught is 36 inches with one of them. And but I know they'll get to 44 inches. I know that's the largest one I've ever heard of getting collected in a fisheries sample net. But yeah, no, they're pretty cool. They're a fun animal. Very toothy. They're very, very bony mouths. They've got a massive rows of teeth. They got teeth all over their tongue, and they're very similar. Like they remind me of a bowfin, actually.
They really do. The very, very strong resemblance. I mean, it's like this almost eel-like tail. It's very, very similar to a bowfin. Like if you mixed a bowfin, like no shit, a bowfin and an arapaima together, like, or an arowana, like you said, that's it, dude. Like that's a gnarly fucking fish.
Yeah. The arapaima is probably, I'd like to think it's probably more similar to an arapaima than an arowana, in that arowanas just seem to be real thin and no less of a sports fish for sure, but just physical comparison, I guess. And the bowfin's quite solid as well, like the Saratoga, well, this southern one, it's quite a robust fish. It's quite a strong animal, that's for sure. It's fun. They're a fun fish. Very small part of Australia too. Like you probably heard us say on the show there that you could drive its natural range in a car by lunchtime. Such a small area of Australia, such a unique ancient fish that's very small part of the world.
So they're native, but do people fucking think of them like a rough fish or a trash fish?
No, they're pretty revered, that's for sure.
Okay.
In saying that, there probably should be a closed season for them, but there's not. They're mouth breeders, so they're susceptible to fishing during their breeding times. I don't know why they don't get looked after more. I really don't. It's frustrating, really, to see. I just think because they're in such a small area, and a lot of them are stocked into lakes outside of their endemic range, that they just don't get the attention they deserve. But essentially, they are a revered sports fish in Australia. That's for sure.
Well, dude, that's great. Like, I hate seeing native fish be fucking mistreated because of people are ignorant.
Yeah, man. I mean, in Australia, we got closed season for trout, and they're introduced, and they're the most aggressive predatory fish going. They've wiped out a heap of native species that aren't desirable to anglers, so they're overlooked. It's a real shame, and it's really dangerous, in my opinion, to for all those groups that are looking to shut fishing down. To not sort of show the same interest in natives as they do in trout, at least.
No, and that's the whole
off to get out.
That's the whole bullshit, dude. Don't get me wrong, I like fishing trout. But that's the whole bullshit with trout, dude, is like people love trout because they're pretty and they eat dry flies, and everyone associates fly fishing with trout. And it's bullshit, dude, because everyone looks after these fish, but we have so many other fish that actually need looking after. It's like people like, fuck, I guess I'm a little hot now, but like alligator gar, right? Alligator gar were fucking almost endangered from bow fishing, and they're native. They're the largest boned North American fish that we have, and they're ancient. They're fucking dinosaurs, dude. It takes them it takes them like 50 or 60 years to grow to these massive sizes. You got to think like that fish is sitting at the top of the food chain for X amount of years. And then, Fucknuts McGee and his mullet and his flat bill cap goes out there with a fucking bow and arrow and kills it because it's legal. And it's like, what the fuck is going on, dude? But then you've got people like, oh, you can't fish trout if it's above 70-degree water. Like, is that really the problem? No, it's not. But anyway, I'll get off that fucking soapbox.
Yeah, no, I agree. I have a problem with the giving preference to a species that might impact an endemic species just for sport. With in regards to trout, at least in Australia, anyway. I just think it's so dangerous, man. With all the greenie groups looking to ban, catch, and release, like it's just I don't know why they. I mean, I'm probably giving them if they listen to this, I'm probably giving them fodder, and a direction. But man, I don't know why they haven't latched onto that one. I really do. It's just a sitting duck, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's such an old industry. I mean, I've heard stories of them plane dropping trout in places like Papua New Guinea, and in the highlands, in the lakes, just dropping fingerlings out of planes, just to stock the area because the colonialists want something to do, and I just think that's kind of bullshit, really.
Yeah. we stock mountain lakes with trout via helicopter and all kinds of stuff, but they're here, they're not putting any non-native species in these mountain lakes. They'll be, cutthroat or, rainbows, whatever. So we have some people in the US that want to get rid of anything to do with interaction with animals. I mean, it's really, it's crazy enough that it won't fly right now, but if politically you're able to go attack the most susceptible population, which are the children, then you're able to mold their mind into thinking that this is something that's brutal and heinous and horrible and all that. And what it really comes back around to is that us as the anglers or hunters or outdoors people in all aspects, we need to be ready to take these kids and actually show them that, no, it's okay. We've been doing this a long time and things aren't being hurt and killed unless we're harvesting. And if we do that, we're responsible for taking care of that fish or that animal that we harvest. But we're not doing this just to cold-bloodedly murder another living creature. We have a purpose for harvesting animals. Humans are the top of the food chain. There's places in the world that, you may not be at the top at that point in time, but these thumbs here, they've made us very deadly animals. And so and our capacity, we are the apex predator of Earth. We can do whatever we want. Like, we might have a great white grab one guy and drag him under surfing, but then we can send out a fleet of boats with harpoons and everything else and go decimate a population. It happened. That's the whole thing. It's like, you got us once, now we're going to get you back, or whales or sea lions or otters, pick whatever you want. Right.
Yeah.
We have the ability to decimate things, but we also have the ability to control and the ability to show people, that's the whole thing. Some people will not have their mind changed, and that's fine. People can have their own opinions. It's an opinion. It's neither right or wrong. Our opinion on fishing is neither right or wrong. It's an opinion. That's what it is. But when it turns into, I'm going to take this away from this group of people because I don't like it, that's when it becomes a problem. Instead of minding your own business and doing your own thing, you don't have to go fishing. You don't have to go hunting. You don't have to go out and hike through the wilderness or ATV, ride ATVs. You can stay in your condominium and hate, hunters and anglers and all that. But for you to have the audacity to think that you can take that stuff away we've went through centuries of warfare because of things like that. You should probably be a little more mindful and just know that that's not how you're going to win hearts and minds.
I totally agree. It's like you said, it's as apex predators, we've got the ability to manage as well as and learn from our mistakes as well. I think you're right. It's some people that are controlling a dangerous narrative at the moment, 100%. I mean, we got it here too, man. Particularly after all the COVID bullshit with everyone getting outside a lot more. It just seems to be it's interesting times, that's for sure. You guys, brown trout are endemic to the US, aren't they? Though.
No, they were introduced here.
They were
rainbows.
introduced.
Rainbows.
Yeah, they were brought in the late 1800s, like 87 or some shit like that. They were stocked in the Pier Marquette in Michigan and one other place I can't ever remember. I think it was actually the PM first, and then they were moved to like California or some shit like that. But they were brought here from Germany, and I forget where the other strain's from. But yeah, they were brought here, and they're wild now, but they're not native.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I guess perhaps the ecosystems, some ecosystems are probably more suited to introducing salmonoids than others. I mean, it's a slippery slope. It really is. But I just think sometimes old management styles are a bit aggressive. Let's put it that way. And it's probably going to hurt us as fishermen and hunters potentially. That's all I worry about.
Yeah, well, as you know, living in a something that was colonized by Europeans, same with America, North America. One of the biggest things that came to both of our countries that it's become a popular sport fish, but it was never meant to be here, is carp. Carp can thrive anywhere. They can thrive in a 100-degree mud puddle. That doesn't matter. They're just very adaptable. They were a food source in Europe. Now nobody touches them, but they're held in high reverence in Europe. That is their golden species, so to speak. And we have them here in the U.S. And what Europeans don't understand about these fish is that they do untold damage to stream beds and to lakes where there were native species. Like, you could be in John's area in Texas and have beautiful largemouth and spotted bass and stripers and all that stuff, all those bass species that are native to his region, displaced by common carp. We have a problem with them getting into our main rivers and impeding migratory fish. And so it's always one of those things that the Europeans hate about Americans is I don't like bow fishing, because once you shoot the fish, you can't take it back, right? It's dead. It's one and done. I don't like that, except for carp. Carp, I think if you want to go bow fish, go thump carp with a bow. There's tons of them. They're not native. They're not an alligator gar. They're not a long-nosed gar. They're not a paddle fish. They're not, something else. They're not native here. And even for the people that want to feed them corn flies and bread flies and do all this other stuff and catch carp on the fly, you're not going to run out of them, because they are highly successful and you're not going to get all of them. But when people talk about bow fishing, I was just going back to what John was saying. Don't go bow fish a native species. Go shoot a damn introduced species.
I mean, fuck, like even, like here, like the buffalo are native fish.
Yeah.
Like those need to be protected too. Dude, they did damn work. And this is, hearsay, like rumor mill bullshit. But, one of the dudes that was working on the project to repair the dam on the river, one of the rivers here that I fish, that they were behind like 20 years on repairs. And literally the dude comes into my welding shop, because he used to work in my welding shop, and now he works for like the state or Game and Fish and some shit. And he's like, we were talking about, like catching gar and stuff out there. And he was like, yeah, where are they going to drain it? And I was like, well, what are they going to do to all those fish? And they said, well, they're going to move the crappie and the bass and some of the catfish, but all of the gar and carp, which included the buffalo, he said, we're literally just going to net them up, put them in a dumpster, dig a hole, and then dump them. Right.
Man.
And I was like, there's no fucking way that's what they're going to do. And I don't know if that's what they did, but I can tell you, like, none of those fish in the quantity that were there before are there now.
What a shame.
It is a shame, dude. It's like, what a waste. What a waste of a resource.
Yeah. Well, it's crazy, mate. It really is. It really is. I think you're right. Like, the management side of things, if they would encourage bow hunting for European carp, that'd be great. I've heard one of the Aussies you guys had on your show recently talk about this and briefly, and even the management in Australia, in some places you can put them back. It's your choice, which I think's bullshit. But in other places you got to euthanize them, and I think that's really good. I mean, you can't even have possession of them to eat them in some states in Australia. They take it pretty seriously. And like you guys mentioned, I think you mentioned, Brian, earlier, Tasmania. Like, that's a great example of how hard those guys have worked for the management of European carp. The trout fishing down there is world class. There's no two ways about it. Although they're an introduced species, it's a huge part of their economy, and I can respect that. It is what it is now. The introduction of carp was looking at decimating that fishery, and in turn, not only ruining an already arguably changed environment, but an economy as well. Those guys have successfully, after I think about maybe 15, 18 years, are confident that they've removed the final carp from a particular lake. That's how long it takes to extract that species from a lake. And the way they did it, I believe, is they switch baited them. They set up like a female in a net and it attracted males, and they just kept piling that net in like those dumb bastards, yeah. But that's what they did. I could be butchering that, but it's along those lines. But they got rid of them, and that's the point of the story, is how long it takes to get rid of those things. And when they're treated like sports fish, and people that love fishing for them because they've got nothing else there, kind of sounds familiar to trout in my mind, particularly in Australia. They put them back. I've had arguments with friends that have ended up being pretty heated in regards to that. I feel pretty kind of passionate about that I just don't think that non-native fish should be given preferential treatment over natives. This is just, I think that at the end of the day, that's what it should boil down to, and then the conversation should start from there about any viability of introduced species. In a lot of circumstances here, and I'm guessing any other parts around the world, that horse has already bolted from our forefathers and their management style. So, in a lot of circumstances, it is what it is at the moment. But like I said earlier, I think some of the old management systems are sitting ducks for modern ways of thinking, environmental ways of thinking, which worries me that we'll get stuff taken away from us.
Absolutely.
Which would be horrible. Like you said, Brian, we've all fought for our freedom. Many countries have combined. It's it'd be a shame, that's for sure. I just think, especially in lieu of better management, that's where it really falls down.
Yeah, and the management agencies have turned into such a massive bureaucracy. Nobody's really running anything, but between being afraid of being sued by a conservation group, or pseudo conservation group, we'll call them that, because they don't want the management agency doing X because it goes against what they are trying to politically manipulate through gerrymandering and handing out funds to politicians. People are like, oh, that doesn't happen. Oh, it does happen. It's all tracked. We know where organizations' monies are going. I'm not going to say any of them right now, but I've looked at quite a few of them, and I can tell you right now that we have plenty of organizations here in the U.S. that give a lot of money to a lot of politicians, and that it's political manipulation, is the best way I can put it. And no country's immune from that. In some countries they call it flat out corruption. They call the kettle what it is, and but there's also a lot to do with, these other people that just, they're like, well, we don't know what we're really doing, but because it's what's fashionable or popular, that's what we're going to do. So if you have a bunch of people say, we're not going to buy licenses anymore because we only want to fish for trout, then that's basically a financial, extortion on the state. And they're like, okay, well, we'll go put these fish back. You have yellow perch out of control in Australia, like completely out of control. Yeah.
Same thing,
Red fins. Yeah. I couldn't remember what you guys called them, but it's so out of control that, I mean, you have to kill them because they're just, they're displacing native species.
But that's the thing that the people don't, like, because they live in an area, they might be introduced to fishing in the last 10 years, say, and just through, they've got nothing else to catch. They love fishing. I can respect that. But to put a carp back or a redfin back, there's even translocation of endemic species in Australia that cause a lot of controversy amongst anglers because they're a species called a sooty grunter, we call it. It's probably the most similar fish we've got to a smallmouth in Australia, I would say. And those things are fantastic sports fish, but they've been translocated to a river that's got an endangered version of a Murray cod, I guess. It's called a Mary River cod, but it's a subspecies and it's endangered, still endangered. Those translocated fish will probably decimate that species to complete extinction in another 10 years. People love catching them. I watch on social media go, no one's going to tell me to kill a sooty. And then you've got people that are more conservative to the conservation or being involved with stocking groups or the regeneration of that Mary River cod. And they're like, you should be necking all those fish, dude. Every single fish should be brain spiked, but because they're natives and people like catching them, it's just funny. I mean, it's the unpopular opinion for sure. But yeah, it'd be great to see social media sort of use its power in that way for education rather than self gain. As far as fishing is concerned, anyway.
Absolutely.
And it's not like our opinions here, like 100% right or whatever. It's each of our own opinions. But
for sure,
some of these fish, it's just too far gone, like you said earlier. Like some of these fisheries, I should say, it's too far gone that we're not gonna be able to recover them. But like the fucking Asian carp, dude. The Asian carp are literally ruining, and that's like an agreed thing. Like everyone agrees on this one fish being here that shouldn't be here, and that's the Asian carp. They're so prolific. It's an infestation. They are absolutely ruining the fisheries for every fish. And now we're trying to all take care of that, and I think it's a shame that we can all come together to do that, but we can't all come together to agree on, like, well, maybe we should stop. Maybe we should stop killing all these fish that belong here. And then but something I was kind of thinking about, that I've been thinking about a lot, is catch and release has become so mindless. It's like people have stopped thinking about what it is. They just think it's the right thing to do, specifically because of probably social media. Like, as a trending hashtag, catch and release. I use it myself, and like keep them wet and all this other stuff. But the more I like sit here on my ass and I think about this, it's like it's become so mindless. It's like, why are you catching and releasing? Well, I don't eat fish. Well, that's a fair enough answer, I guess. And then, but you ask the next guy, it's like, why do you catch and release? And they're like, oh, well, then think about what you're doing, man. It's like, think about what you're doing. You don't always have to throw a fish back. Like, if it's an invasive species, please don't throw it back.
Yeah.
Fucking get rid of it. And there's a whole lot of fish that make really good table fare, that there's so many of them. You're not harming anything keeping, a couple of those fish to feed your family or for lunch or to make fish tacos to have with a fucking Corona. Like there's nothing wrong with keeping fish. And people, it's so this bastardized ideal now that like you're a piece of shit if you eat fish or keep fish now. And it's like, that's so fucked up. Like catch and release has become so mindless.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, to second that, the thing is like there's certain fish that I just don't feel like, I'll go out and fish for a day and I just don't feel like gutting fish and scaling them or filleting or something else. It's just like, yeah, we have prolific smallmouth bass here. And there you can keep all of them that you want because they're not a native species. They were introduced here, bucket biology. That's what we call it. Somebody came and they're like, I want to fish bass in the big river. Well, we got lots of bass, but sometimes, I don't want to keep those, so yeah, I'll throw them back. But I know other people that hook them and they beat them and they throw them back into the river after they beat them to death and let them, go back into basically rot on the bottom of the river. Is it right or wrong? Well, I guess that depends on your opinion. I found that smallmouth bass are pretty damn tasty. And there's a lot of people that would say, oh my God, you keep those bass, you eat them? That's not okay. You're destroying this. It's like, timeout. Number one, bass never existed in this river 6,000 years ago. Okay. They've only been here for maybe a grand total of 80 years in my area. And they proliferated everything. Yellow perch have done the same thing. Redfin, right? They've done the same thing here. Crappie never existed in my area. Bluegill never existed in my area. Pumpkin seed, warmouth. You want to go through the list? Are they all fun fish to catch? Absolutely. I love catching them. They're so much fun and they're easy for the kids to catch. It's a great way to catch things. But I don't want to go fuck around with a bluegill. What am I going to do with a fish? It's about 4 inches in diameter. I got to catch 100 of them to have a dinner for 4 people, and I got to gut all the little bastards and I got to despine them and do all this other stuff. Yeah. Bluegill, I've ate them. They're good. They're really good. I've ate crappie. Crappie's top notch, table fare, walleye, all that stuff, all these fish that, you're probably not familiar with, but we have a lot of them. Okay.
I am. Yeah.
But, somebody says, well, what do you do when you go fishing out in the saltwater? We go out there to hunt and kill fish. That's what we do. We're not going to go spend $180 in fuel to go out and play, Vanity Fair with fish. They're getting hauled up on the boat. We're going to beat their ass to death. And they're going to go back to the fish cleaning station and they're going to get filleted and they're going to get put in vacuum seal bags and they're going to get turned into fish and chips and fish tacos and you name it. We're not going to go spend, we have thousands of dollars of gear, hundreds of dollars in fuel, running all over the goddamn ocean. We're not going out there to play catch and release with these fish. We're out there. We are hunting at that point. And the people that are like, oh, you just killed that beautiful rockfish. I'm telling you right now, you're never going to see me release something that is legal to keep. We got a couple species we can't, but when I'm offshore, everything dies that comes in the boat.
And with that being said, though, like you're not out there hunting sport fish. It's not like we're out there like, oh, I'm gonna catch this fucking 80-pound fucking tarpon and I'm gonna beat it over the head. No, if I'm fortunate enough to even touch that fish, like not even just leader it, like get it up and actually hold that's a hell of a moment. And I'm going to let that fish go because that fish deserves that, but like rockfish and all these other really good fish that they're not in, like, it goes back to that whole, there's healthy populations of those fish, and that's what it's about, man. It's like management. And it comes down like, if your agencies aren't going to manage it properly, I'm not telling you to be a fucking vigilante and do stupid shit, right? That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying be mindful of what you're doing.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think sometimes the most ethical approach is to keep the fish. Really, if you want to play it that way. At the end of the day, fishing's a blood sport. We're aware of it. We enter into that agreement when we take it on. There's no way everyone's going to agree to it. That's for sure. But yeah. At least with those Asian carp, they make good TikTok videos, right? Like they're the ones that jump out and hit people in the face, right? Those ones.
Yeah.
It's pretty fucking entertaining sometimes. You must admit. They take them all out.
Yeah, it's definitely entertaining, but holy shit, dude.
Yeah.
Well, hey guys.
It sounds like the struggle's real around the whole world. Really, I mean. Yeah. Places like Germany, you can't even do catch and release, from what I hear. Like they it's just I mean, I would imagine that the fishery is that pressured that it's either that or it's an ethics or whatever. I don't know, but yeah, it got taken away from them. I've heard the same thing happen in Nova Scotia, right? They don't call it catch and release now in over there. They call it selective harvesting instead of catch and release for the same reason, because it was almost taken off them. Do you guys know about that?
No.
We will have to ask our friend that lives in Nova Scotia about that one.
Yeah. We hear about it here. It's a case study, if you like, for people being aware of how they act as far as catch and release is concerned. You know, there's just people that just fucking Karens everywhere, just, you know, doing what you said, Brian, you know, like calling you out for something they don't understand, you know?
Yeah.
But anyway, so it's yeah, we've got it now anyway. So
Well, guys, we're over our hour. I'm happy to have it over the hour, because I think we just spent some good time really hashing out some serious issues in conservation, and you know, some things that I think people need to be aware of, honestly.
You know,
but
I was just gonna, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, dude. This, since I fucking did like a jackass, I'm gonna go ahead and say it's refreshing and also dismal at the same time a little bit, I guess, to know that you're having the same fucking struggles over there, dude. Like you said, it's worldwide. So
yeah,
but
yeah,
damn. But it, you know,
yeah.
at the same time, it's nice to know that there's like-minded folks that appreciate more than just the fish, but understand the fisheries and all that. So yeah, I say it's pretty fucking sick, dude.
Yeah. Look, it's not all doom and gloom. I'm sure it's not doom and gloom over there for you guys either. But
yeah,
it's got to be part of the conversation. Really, at the end of the day, it's up to, like, there's. I'm sorry, Brian, I know you want to go, but there's people conspiring against us, you know, and it's just apathy that's going to have it taken away. You know, it's the commercial fishing sector, like, is so organized. The conservationists is so organized, and we just like to drink beer and catch fish, and then that's why it'll get taken away from us if we don't make it part of the conversation. In my opinion.
yeah.
Yep. Yeah, there you go.
Well, Chris,
I did not know we were going to talk that way in this show.
No, that's okay. I think it's good though, because I do think that a lot of people, and I'll say this in the best way I can. I think a lot of people think that people that are influenced by Europe tend to have just a general hatred of anything that has to do with hunting or fishing or anything else, which we know that there's plenty of people in Europe that love to fish. They love to catch and release. They love to catch and keep. They wish they had what we had. You know, they wish they had the Australia. They wish they had the United States or the Canada, or, you know, places in South America that, you know, where there was these fisheries, and they just simply don't. And my concern there is that as generations go on, they're just going to lose that part of their culture.
Yeah, I agree.
It's really sad.
Yeah, I agree, man. That would be sad. That's for sure.
So, Chris, I hate to wrap it up like this, but where can people find you? Where's the best place to get in touch with you, and where can people find you?
All right, so Beast Brushes, both on Instagram and Facebook. I don't have Twitter. Ammo flies, if they want to see some of the flies I've tied, particularly some of the originals, like you mentioned, the slow water, and some of those flies are way more popular in the United States than they are in Australia. You know, it's great. My deer hair cicada, things like that. Anyway, you can go and have a look at that. That's on Ammo Flies, Facebook, Instagram as well. But also the Intermediate Line podcast. I'm sure if we can have a conversation that flows this well, and your listeners enjoy this, they'll probably enjoy us with our stupid Australian accents as well. We got people from all over the world coming on like you guys as well. So it's, yeah. Anyway, yeah, Intermediate Line is on Instagram, Facebook. Also, we're not on Spotify because we rip people's music off. And yeah, we got to get around that too. Spotify won't let us have it on if we play Slayer, unfortunately.
Damn it.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Stiff, huh?
Yeah, we need some rain and blood going. So
Yeah. Yeah. Nah, cool guys. Look, it's been great, and I really appreciate you having me on. And I'm glad we got round to it. And yeah, love to have you guys on. We should do a collab and record you guys for our show as well one day. Eh?
We'd love it.
Fucking love to.
Mm.
Do I get a pass to use the C word?
Yeah, fucking oath. Let's see how you go, mate. I'll coach you through it if you like.
All right. So me. Do I have to say fucking in front of it, or is it just?
Yeah,
is it, so
mate.
is it,
You can.
so
you can
Can we
use
just do? Can we do it like Charlie Bronson style?
it depends on the context that you want to throw it at. You know, like if you want to show it in an endearing way, like you go as a good cunt. You know, that'd be the go. That's how we use it in Australia. You know, but I mean, like, you know, you could say the Greenie's a dumb cunt, you know, if you wanted to. Yeah. But it's all the intention. I tried coaching Chad Bauer through it. He gave it a crack, but you could tell he was pretty hesitant with it, and it sounded ugly, you know, a little bit. Like, I hope Chad's listening. He might be working on his cunt game there a little bit, but yeah, give it a crack, John. Like, I'll coach you through it, mate.
Yeah. So you guys are good cunts, or is it?
Yeah, that was pretty good, mate.
Yeah, pretty good. It needs practice. It's
yeah,
not
that
really
was shitloads
natural.
better than Chad. What's that? Sorry. What'd you say? Sorry.
I didn't say
Oh,
anything.
No.
I thought John.
Yeah.
I missed what he said. It's all good. No, it was good, man. You did well.
Oh, I appreciate it.
All right. Well, everybody, you can find Chris at all of the aforementioned places, and he will definitely make sure to give you the best service that he possibly can. And he's definitely somebody that you want to talk to about those saltwater flies and all the good stuff. Chris, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate you being here. This has been a great conversation.
My pleasure. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. It's been good.
Yeah, dude, it's been, you know, sorry. I don't know if I'm just teary eyed or if I'm thirsty as fuck right now, but I just
That's the effect the word cunt has on people.
Yeah, no, dude, it's just so overwhelming, you know. But Chris, for real, dude, it's been fucking awesome. I did not expect the podcast to go like this at all, but I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation, dude.
Oh well, we can take it another direction if you guys want to do it again one time. But, I've enjoyed myself. I'd do it anytime you guys want, if you can.
Yeah,
you guys got a
dude.
pretty bulk list on at the moment, so maybe sometime in 2025, by the time you guys have got space with me again.
I think we'll always have room for Chris Adams.
Oh, absolutely.
Cool.
Well, John, you want to roll those sponsors?
Yeah, everybody, thanks for listening to the podcast. If you made it this far, next time we're going to have a lesson on how to say the word cunt. And this episode of Working Class Fishing is brought to you by CD Fishing USA, Anadromous Fly Company, Angry Rooster Fly Company, Mr. Shearcure and Naughty Tackle, Lid Rig, and 317 Flies.
Make sure to go check out all those sponsors once again. And you can find us at Working Class Fishing Podcast on Instagram, WC Fish, over on Facebook, or at our Facebook page, Working Class Fishing Podcast. You can also find us on YouTube. If you're a listener, you'll look at us or look us up under Working Class Fishing Podcast. And if you're a viewer on YouTube and you want to listen to us on your morning commute, you can find us over on Spotify or Apple or Google or pretty much anywhere. So you can find us on any one of those listening platforms. And if you want to talk to us, or you have anything, comments, or you want to get in touch with one of our guests, make sure to email us at workingclassfish@gmail.com. But until next time, everyone, thank you so much for listening. We hope that you have a wonderful day.